The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Tuesday, the 15th day of February, 2022, and welcome to the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House One Communications and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Sherry Vanderpool. Leanna Lambert will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sherry, how are you on this Tuesday morning?
I'm doing quite well. I have no complaints.
You're doing better than the majority of Bermudians, especially David Burt, the Premier of Bermuda, who seems to have gotten his heart broken on Valentine's Day. Well, I guess Bermudians got their hearts broken on Valentine's Day due to the resignation of the now former Finance Minister, Curtis Dickinson. But anyway, let's move on. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Bermuda's longest serving and arguably most accomplished former Premier Sir John Swan is coming to the show. The Daily Play is a remember when, so a bit of history. Yeah, just a bit of history for Sherry today. But look, folks, we have no time to waste this morning. We have no time to waste. This is why I don't take Valentine's Day too seriously, because man, probably had chocolate, candy, balloons, and everything. And guess what? All of that to remind you that Bermuda is in a dire state.
Yeah.
The question, we're going to jump right to it. And it's basically, does this resignation of Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson concern you? And who should replace him? And if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, I visit the Honorable Premier David Burt's LinkedIn, and he states, I have today reluctantly accepted the resignation of the Honorable Curtis L. Dickinson as Finance Minister of Bermuda. Bermuda has been well served by Minister Dickinson's steady and thoughtful hand at the helm of the government's finances and fiscal strategy. Minister Dickinson led the financial support response to the pandemic and invested tremendous personal energy and commitment to ensure that the needs of the island's workforce were met as people were impacted by the necessary strict public health measures. Personally, I know the immense toll that an individual's public service takes on families, and in thanking Curtis for his service, I must also recognize the sacrifice of his wife and children during the unprecedented period of economic strain for Bermuda. I cannot thank Curtis enough for all that he has done as Bermuda's Minister of Finance, and will continue to support him as the representative of Constituency 21, and will value his advice and contributions from the backbench. So there you have it. The Honorable, now former Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson is no longer. And the question for you, the audience, is, does the resignation of Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson concern you? And who should replace him? Let me go first. Can I go first, please, Sherry? Let me go first.
I mean, this was the news that hit everybody's WhatsApp like wildfire. Good.
Well, what I will say, it's probably not a good look for the leadership of the country. This is on the back of, well, this is Curtis 2.0, because we just had the Senator Curtis Richardson resign for very different matters, right? And prior to that, you had the Dr. Karika Weldon, who was a consultant to the government, claims they were not listening to her. She resigned. So it seems like there's something going on. And when things like this happen, it seems like it starts at the top. And maybe I'm assuming, right? Maybe I'm assuming. It could be nothing to do with the politics, could be nothing to do with the great leadership of the current Premier of Bermuda. But this is not a good look. And the eve of the budget, I'll tell you what, if you weren't concerned about Bermuda prior to this, folks, you should be extremely concerned now, because I don't think it's just the resignation, it's the timing of it. The timing of this resignation is very concerning. And as I stated on Twitter yesterday, and I make no apologies for this, while the PLP have large numbers, a large majority, I don't think I'm alone in stating that well is very shallow when it comes to talent. So the question of who replaces the Honorable former Minister Curtis Dickinson is a valid question. Does the Premier take this back over? Do we usher in someone with an accounting background? This is on the electorate. Every last person that voted in the election. Why is it on us? Because we're responsible for voting people in. And when we vote people who don't have the capacity to actually serve as Premier, like we asked the question, who would replace David Burt? Why would you vote for a person that you don't think is capable of leading the country? Now we're in shambles because we probably don't have, out of 30 people, or include the senators, 35, one that we trust leading our economy. That's on the electorate. So the electorate needs to take some responsibility for that. So to answer the question, does the resignation of Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson concern me? I was concerned before. So hell yeah, I'm concerned now. Who should replace him? I'll tell you what, the person that should replace him does not exist in the PLP. So if it was really about the country, maybe they should just call an election. Go drop that rid up government house so that we can make space for competent people to run the country. Let's go to Sherry and the order.
You got that off your chest?
Yes.
It was very shocking to see Minister Curtis Dickinson resign on the eve of the budget, and it says a lot for the government that we have in place. And what is it that Curtis, obviously Mr. Dickinson, did not agree with or has been dealing with all of this time, that you would make such a bold move? And you made a loud statement in doing so, in the manner in which you did. Now, if we also listen to what the Premier said, he reluctantly, and that is key in the sense of, was it reluctance before the budget, or would it have been reluctance after the budget?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. And, I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with Mr. Dickinson to find out what's going on.
I don't think he's going to talk to you. He don't like the media like that.
He likes me.
Sean Smith says, this is very concerning, being that the budget is about to be debated. Well, it's about to be read. Yeah. James Burt says, yes, it's very concerning. I guess he is not standing by the decisions coming in the next budget.
And
she says, does the finance minister have to be a member of parliament? No, they don't. It can be someone in the Senate, but I believe one or two ministers can be announced from the Senate. I could be wrong, but no, it can be someone in the Senate. And I think there is someone with at least an accounting background in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken. Karen Simmons says, yes, concerning, especially with the budget release. Timing is everything, and the pool of skilled, competent persons from the 36 is minimal to take over. So, I think this is, it's along the lines. Sam, please share.
Yes, the resignation is extremely concerning. I don't know if there's anyone remaining with an accountant or finance designation, but I surely do feel they better find someone that has that.
We have James Birch. He says Mr. Dickinson should be Mr. Dickinson's replacement. Well, I mean, there may be an option. If the Premier resigns or if there's pressure, push him out. Maybe Mr. Dickinson becomes the Premier and finance minister. I'm just saying there are things. Sean Smith says maybe Wayne Furbert will be the next finance minister as he is a CPA. I saw people debating that. I actually like Wayne Furbert as a person. I like him. I don't think he would probably be best placed for the finance ministry. I have my opinions on that.
And
real quickly, Sam Cat Place says Premier Burt should not resume the role of finance minister. There is too much fiscal discord that he has caused, and Minister Dickinson has made a loud statement with his resignation. Integrity stood up. Go ahead, Sharon.
No, what I was going to say is that, oh gosh, Jamal, 47, it just left me. Go ahead.
I'm saying, folks, my young card comes out every now and then. Janet
Every
Maynard
now and
says, very concerned, not understanding why at this time as we prepare to debate the budget, not understanding this at all. And Charles H. Jeffers II says, yes, the Minister of Finance is the one position that must be MP. No, is that right? Because was he not a senator and finance minister? I thought he was a senator prior to being elected in the by-election where he was named the finance minister. I could be wrong. Charles, but just check me on that, audience. Before Jeff Barron resigned, he became an MP up in Jeff Barron's old constituency. I thought he was minister before that. And then I could be wrong, though. So forgive me if I'm wrong.
It came back to me, Jamal. You know, what we spoke about on the show prior to, what does their resume look like? Whoever this next person is, are we voting because they just have a CPA, or what have they done with their CPA, and what areas have they done certain things? We can't just be voting people in or having somebody take over that really doesn't have the background to support it.
Yeah. Well, I think, Sherry, you bring something up. You state something that I think we need to be very clear about here. And I think the majority of Bermudians understand this. Politics is a popularity contest, nothing more. David Burt is not premier because the majority of Bermudians believe he's the best person to lead the island. Let's be clear about that. David Burt is there because the majority of Bermudians voted for the PLP. They did not vote for him as premier, nor did they vote for anyone to be their minister, right? So I think a lot of this, I know we, have our opinions about the leadership and so on, but the leadership is what it is because of the people that elect them. That's what it is. So a lot of this is on us. But interestingly enough, the audience has not really said, and this goes back to my comment about the lack of talent in that shallow pool. Does the resignation of Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson concern you? But who should replace him? And I don't quite think we have that answer. Michael Daniel says, it's time Bermudians take over their destiny. I don't disagree. Michelle White, for you, Sherry.
Very concerned. Curtis Dickinson not only is an accountant, but he has global financial experience. I don't think anyone can go over at his level. This is a great loss for Bermuda's financial expertise. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah. Richard Augustus says, when your canary in your proverbial coal mine ends up dead and you don't have any replacement canaries. Okay. Well, I think he just spoke about what we've been saying, folks. NTS says, I believe Vance Campbell has an accounting background as well. Not saying he should be the next finance minister, though. Very shallow backbench. Yes, there's quite a few. I think Anthony Richardson, Vance Campbell, Wayne Furbert. But again, hey, well, I'll leave it. Yeah. Michelle says, can we just restructure government and look into private sector for a qualified candidate? Seems like a great time to just burn it all down and start again. She said it better than I have.
Where's the lie? It is important for the new Minister of Finance to have a finance or accounting background. I believe Anthony Richardson has that.
Yes, indeed. Yep, just mentioned him. Sam Cat Place says, I forgot about Wayne Furbert. He may be the best shoe at this point. Not too sure about Vance Campbell. Oh boy, God help us. Wow, that sounds personal, Sam Cat Place. Look, we're going to get to the news break. Obviously, very strong opinions. We do have a special guest backstage, Sir John Swan, and yeah, I think we should come out the blocks asking Sir John Swan about this. I think that it's only fair that Bermuda's probably most successful premier, as far as the economy is concerned, probably will have a lot to say on this. So we definitely would love to get his feedback on that. As far as audience, I will try to get through as many of your questions as possible. So feel free to share now if you'd like any questions that you have for the Honorable former Premier Sir John Swan after this break. But I want to just leave you with this as it relates to the resignation of the finance minister. I've said it already, and I really hope that it sticks with you all. Regardless of who leads us, regardless of who's appointed by those who lead us, we have a responsibility to participate in our so-called democracy. And that is not just about this argument, especially an argument that Black people tend to use about go to vote, it's your right to vote, our ancestors fought for your right to vote. You know, we shut that down years ago when we were telling people not to vote. Because if I'm not mistaken, the former Premier, Sir John Swan, called for a referendum in 1995, and it was the same Black party that was encouraging people not to vote back then. But all of a sudden, when you need the votes or want the votes, you claim the ancestor argument. Folks, democracy is not about just voting. It's about holding people accountable. If we fail to hold those who we put in position accountable, then pretty much all else is lost as far as our work in this democracy. It's more than a vote. Please understand that. Do the work. Let's bring Leanna in. And folks, if you're on Facebook, I have something very disappointing to tell you. Sir John's not going to be on your live with you. So what you need to do is you need to go onto our YouTube channel. You need to make sure that you subscribe, hit the notifications bell, which we always encourage people to do. We will share the link right now in the comments for you to go over to YouTube and join the conversation so that you can engage with Sir John Swan. Leanna, let's bring her in and see if she's got anything for us. Let's take a guess. What do you think Leanna's top story is today?
Yeah, think.
What's your top story?
Good morning. I am over here sipping my hot water and lime this morning.
All right. Well,
comments.
You know what? Since you got your hot water and lime and it's no alcohol in there, we're going to get right over to your news break because I know that you've got a little something in there we've probably been discussing. Yeah?
Let's do it.
All right. Over to you, Lee. Don't forget, Sir John Swan joins after this.
Thanks, Jamal and Sherry, and good morning to everyone who is tuned in with us today. We hope everyone had a great Valentine's and received some form of love from a colleague, friend, family member, or loved one. And I hope everyone is having a great start to their day. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Some reports have described it as a bombshell being dropped on the ruling government as news spread like wildfire on social media platforms yesterday that Finance Minister Curtis Dickinson had quit the role just over a week before he was due to deliver the annual budget speech. Now, Mr. Dickinson is said to have submitted his letter of resignation to Premier David Burt effective immediately. The shock resignation of the finance minister yesterday drew mixed reactions from the entire community and many community figureheads. Now, reasons as to why the finance minister decided to leave the post are still unknown, but rumors are there was a level of discontent within the ministry, and more specifically to support or not to support any major decision to that would make the government liable for any policy backing of funding for the refurbishment of the Southampton Princess Hotel. Now, not too long after Premier Burt tweeted that he had reluctantly accepted Mr. Dickinson Dickinson's resignation, stating Bermuda had been well served with the minister at the helm of government's finances and fiscal strategy. He went on to acknowledge the financial support response Minister Dickinson had led through the pandemic, having invested personal energy, commitment, and sacrifice. Thanking him for his services, the Premier went on to say that he will support Mr. Dickinson as the representative in Constituency 21 and will value his advice and contributions from the backbench. In other news, another COVID-19 related death has been revealed by health officials as they released the latest test results, which pushed the island's death toll from the coronavirus to 121. Now, active cases of the virus continued to drop down to 206 after 165 people have recovered from infection, although 100 new cases were found in tests carried out from last Wednesday to Saturday. Now, there are 8 people in hospital with the illness, one of them in intensive care. Kim Wilson, the Minister of Health, offered her condolences to the friends and family of the latest coronavirus-linked death. And police are investigating an assault said to have taken place at the Ambiance Lounge over the weekend. Now, authorities say shortly before 6 on Sunday morning, emergency services responded to the report of an assault at the nightclub on Angle Street in Pembroke. Upon arrival, police were met with a male victim who sustained a non-life-threatening laceration to the forehead. The victim apparently declined to be taken to hospital, but received medical attention by EMTs on the scene. The suspect, a 31-year-old black male, apparently left the scene prior to police arrival, but was subsequently located at a Smiths Parish residence and was arrested. Anyone with information should contact police at 295-0011. Taking a look at today's weather, we have a high near 62 and a low near 57 degrees. There will be some early sunshine with a chance of a passing shower or two. Strong high pressure will begin to build in from the northwest today. This brings a return of drier weather with notably cooler temperatures into midweek while staying breezy and variably cloudy. Skies brighten toward the end of the week as high pressure remains dominant over the region. That's all for our Daily Hour news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Now let's head back to Jamal and Sherry in the studio for today's Daily Focus.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Leanna. Sherry, what is the day of the year today?
It is Singles Awareness Day. If you are single and totally despise Valentine's Day and all its commercial glory, this is all you, Jamal. This is a perfect holiday for you. The day was created from feelings of isolation. Around 2001, Dustin Barnes decided to create a day for his group of friends to enjoy their singleness rather than drown in their sorrows. But also, what is better than to get Valentine's candy half price on a day like today?
Yeah.
Well, that's very fitting.
Don't be like me. Get that candy the day after Halloween and save it for Valentine's, folks. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, business. Lee, thank you so much for that. We'll see you tomorrow.
Definitely. I'm hopping over to YouTube. So,
all right.
Everyone who hasn't, let's do it.
Hop over to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We'll be back with Sir John. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Hi, I'm Karen, a nurse at the old folks home. These long hours used to kill my feet until my hairdresser told me about a great place to buy a pair of clogs. Medical House. Finally, relief. They also carry uniforms in bright, bold colors, and not to mention the support stockings.
Karen, Miss Soltis bet her bet again.
Oh gosh, these days, I need all the support I can get.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandy Town Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. This month, we're again featuring an important dealer in the whole food industry, Aurora Natural Products, who started in Connecticut in 1998 with 4 employees and now employ hundreds, all devoted to producing a wide variety of all-natural and organic goods to an ever-expanding market. Aurora have become a national leader in the whole food distribution business and are ever mindful of the big picture, monitoring the path of each and every ingredient from their source to your table. Try Aurora Natural Raw Shelled Pistachios. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
All right, welcome back to the big show. She's Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Also, sending love to those on BCG Radio tuned in. We always seem to forget to mention you, but you are a big part of what we do. So thank you for tuning in on the at bcgradio.com. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We have former Premier of Bermuda and businessman. We have Sir John Swan joining us. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be on the show.
It's
I've been listening to your comments, and I must say that they are profound and provocative, because we are faced with a fantastic challenge.
Thank you. And I will say, as I stated to you, the audience, they've been waiting for you. They love you. And I think part of that, what you just mentioned, this challenge that we face, a lot of them want to know, Sir John, what concerns you most? How can we overcome these challenges that we face?
It's a good question, and I think we should have been asking that question some time ago. Bermuda, sits out in the middle of the Atlantic. It has this international business which props up our economy, not tourism, but international business, which depends upon a lot of regulations, international regulations that it must conform to. It is... It operates with the Monetary Authority and the Register of Companies under the Minister of Finance. And then there are other legislative issues that have to be dealt with. So being the Minister of Finance is a very complex job. We struggle to get through to get sovereignty cleared and be on the list. Mm-hmm. We were put on the blacklist at first. And to maintain that, we need to have credibility. We need credibility not only in the person who represents us overseas, but also the credibility of the person that represents us here in Bermuda, whose judgment, ethics, and practices determine how the outside world looks at us and determines how we conduct our affairs. So it's not just a simple walk in the park, push one person and put everybody else in. That won't do it, not in this modern world with social media, with assessment of constantly taking place to assess countries. We have the rating agencies. The last time we had a rating, we picked a rating agency that had 7 years of experience, Standard & Poor's and the others. I still question where we're on Bermuda's finances as we continue to increase the debt. And I'm sure the Minister of Finance was pushed at the edge of a precipice with the idea that the country could not continue to run up debt, whether it was by way of guarantees, which is the same thing. We experienced that with the Morgan's Point deal. It went from being a guarantee to being cash that had to be raised in order to take and pay it off. So, we have a systemic problem. And the systemic problem is that we don't have competency to run a very sophisticated country that supports our economy, that looks after our people. And there's been a slow decline in the ethics, a slow decline in the principal practice of good business and good judgment. And my job, I've always felt, once I stepped out of politics, was to look after all Bermuda, to stay out of politics. I have met with the Premier, expressed my views on subjects, particularly on inflation and what's happening to the lower class individuals. I've met with other ministers who discussed the same subject. I've made broadcasts of that. So we are at a crossroad right now, and it's not just simply saying, well, PLP, just to stay in power, just pick somebody else and be there. I think we need a full assessment. Almost, woke up through the night and I said, maybe what we need to do, and it's just a thought in my head, you mentioned that maybe it is time for a new election. Maybe it's time to sort of reassess and cast a die on how Bermuda is going to operate and give the public, members of the public, chance to participate in how our democracy is going to take in action, because without that, we will just be going from pillar to post, trying to figure out what's the next thing we do when we wake up the next morning. And that's not the way to run a country in this day and age, when the bigger country is in deep trouble, whether it's England, whether it's the United States, or whether it's all parts of Europe. When you look at their financial positions, you look at their security issues, and you look at what's moving on and the threat of cyber and the threat of military action, political content. Bermuda, we can't escape the cost of what's taking place. So I'm here to hopefully can see that process brought to some type of fruition.
Yeah, and I all of what you just said, and I think the point has to be emphasized regarding, I was not being personal when I said it's time to go back to the polls. I think anyone who cares about the country would probably agree that if the majority of the people are speaking and don't feel confident that anyone can lead us economically, then I think it's only one choice if it's really about the people. But that said, let's go back a bit. What are your thoughts on the finance minister resigning this close to the reading of the 22-23 budget?
All sorts of speculation as to why he resigned. There's no way that the Minister of Finance would have resigned on one issue. It had to have been something that was happening that caused him particularly to resign just before the budget. He could have asked for who will be put on any decisions that are being made immediately. The decisions that have been made over time has frustrated him and gotten to a stage where he thinks in principle, he's a very principled individual, that he no longer stand and offer his service to something that he knew that would not justifiably serve the interests of Bermuda. I was faced with the same thing on the referendum, and when my members suggested to the PLP to boycott the election, and when I found out, particularly the cabinet minister and others were behind it, I said I would resign as leader of the party. I mean, there is some principal positions that are up, and just to say because somebody's an accountant, they can do the job. This job here in particular, this is not a small island that is limited by just tourism. It is a major international hub. And so Curtis Dickinson's resignation is a big blow to Bermuda. And to suggest that, we just somebody else, elect him and put him in position, maybe the issue that is caused him to resign so systemic that it is something that it needs to be reevaluated by the Premier and by the other members of the PLP in the interest of overall Bermuda. Too much denigration and ill effects that's happening in Bermuda on the social order because of the bad finances that we have. And it's not the finances' fault. It is that we have not grown the economy. We have not done anything. We have stood in recession for the last 12 years, 2010, and there's been no real growth when you look at inflation, and particularly inflation coming now. And so I've been so frustrated. I said, Jesus, maybe I need to get back in politics myself. That's how frustrated I've been. Because I know I'm old, I might be putting down, but Jesus, at least let's get some direction, get this economy going again. So, particularly the working class people who elected the PLP, by the way, can be given a chance to decide where is it that they want this country to go that's going to benefit them. They're not getting it now.
And I think that's the concern that I have as well. Is I feel like the people impacted most by the economists state, are the base of the PLP. And again, this is not pick on the PLP, but I think that's the point that you were making. But we know the economy is in a dire state. We know, we've had people that have written to us saying, ask Sir John about a third pillar. What's some low-hanging fruit that the government should be looking at that can maybe boost this economy? Because like you said, I was talking to someone yesterday and they were like, oh, well, the pandemic has been hard. The pandemic's not the reason Bermuda's in a dire state. Let's stop this nonsense. Bermuda has been in a bad state long before, because in truth, and I think you confirmed what I was saying in this argument, we never recovered from the 2008-2009 recession.
Well, you're absolutely right. We've been sort of on a downhill slide for a very long time. And, that's just, the pandemic is something that it affected us, but we were not prepared for it. We had so much debt before the pandemic. We had so many, our infrastructure falling apart. When you look at how much drive around Hamilton or go throughout the island, the roads, the properties, go to botanical gardens, go to other places. We've had a steady decline in our aesthetics, a slow decline in our infrastructure. And you walk down Front Street, we talk about having international events, and we talk about having yachts coming into Bermuda and tourism coming back and international people. But go from East Broadway down Front Street, and you tell me, does that represent the Bermuda that we knew and that we had such great pride in? That we had the highest per capita income in the world at one stage. But where are we today with per capita income? So we need a complete makeover, by the way. It's not just now, it's gotten so bad that we need a complete makeover. So we need some major legislative and policy changes that's going to take and bring resources into Bermuda. I was very heavily criticized when I said, and I'll say it again, that we need product, we need intellect, and we need capital brought into Bermuda. And, we got to start realizing the fact that that's going to come from either North America or Europe, that predominantly is white and predominantly wants not somebody else to control their capital, but to control their own capital and participate in something. We can pass the legislation to protect them, but also get the resources from them to help out Bermudians with some of the problems that they have. We can't do the lift ourselves. Our population has been falling since 1960. We used to have a population birth rate of about 200. We're down now to just around 400, and 200 male, 200 female. To tell you, by 2040, when they start giving birth, 2040, 45, that number should be down to about 100. So what we're saying is we're running out of people, and you run out of people, you run out of intellect because you don't have the people and the critical thinkers. And so you have to find ways to bring competency in to get the job done. But we keep running this protectionist policies that all it does is just shrinks the pie and gives you the impression that, everything is okay. But we know it's not about Southampton Princess or whether it's other hotels or tourism. It is about how we tell the outside world we're open for business. You look at economies that are open for business and have proper regulations, they're still thriving. We used to laugh at Cayman. Cayman now laughs at us. I'm not to vacation and down the Caribbean and this and that, all this nonsense. I'm talking about they have business down there and they're doing business down there. Now, it's up to the government and its integrity, its interest in its people to extract from their business and make sure that our people get the proper education, get the proper health care, get the proper opportunities to go abroad, and also to get the jobs that now are just not available in that group. We have two Bermudas, the international business and the domestic business. The international business continues to thrive, but it's going to be challenged by technology and everything else. And we have the local business. which has been collapsing very fast. So we need now bring everything back in concert again.
Interesting. And I like that take on Two Bermudas right there. International and domestic. And we can see you've got videos of small businesses in Bermuda. And when I say small, I'm not saying in stature in terms of size of people, but you go through Washington Mall and there's a lack of businesses. There's empty spaces. And I think from an economic standpoint, I like the way you put that, because we've been taught to and told to believe that Two Bermudas is simply race-based, and that's just not true. But I want to play something for you. Sir John, I want to play something for you real quickly.
Well, actually, there are three Bermudas. There's Bermuda, the international business. Then there's Bermuda, the local business, whether it is all the, when you think about it, Bermudians operate like somehow or the other, they're in control of everything. The bottom line is all your telecommunications, your power companies, all your hotels, everything that supplies business to Bermuda in scale actually is foreign owned anyhow.
Bingo.
You never thought about it that way. Whether it's Belco, Telco, Argus, Bank of Butterfield, Bank of Bermuda, all the banks are owned. Accounting firms are now owned by outside operations. Your major law firms are owned by outside operations. You look at it, there isn't anything we have when we start talking about, oh, we're protecting Bermuda for Bermudians. It's the biggest lie that's ever been told. And you put on top of that the 60-40, which means the fact that these companies are operating, and the 60-40 protects a small little niche of small little companies, like you see in the Washington Mall, like you see down Front Street. And that's why some of the companies that were here have even left Bermuda because they felt as though that the quality in Bermuda was not up to date. We need to bring quality back to Bermuda and bring it back in a way that says, if you want to come to Bermuda, you can own your own company, you can do business in Bermuda, you can pay your taxes, you can employ Bermudians, you can reasonable immigration permissions, and we have to acknowledge that we don't have, if you open Southampton Princess tomorrow, all the major staff in that princess either comes from another place in Bermuda, or else it comes from overseas. There's a number of people that, we keep saying all these Bermudians are unemployed. The reality is a lot of these Bermudians unemployed don't want to be employed. But we're not prepared, our pride, we start talking about, well, we shouldn't denigrate our people. It's not a question of denigrating our people. It's a question of recognizing that our people are just not now numerically and intellectually and motivatedly wise prepared to do some jobs. You don't look at all your landscapers. All landscaping is foreign. All your cleaning companies are foreign. Most of the people working in hospitality industry are foreign. So stop the big lie and come along, and you impose immigration policies on top of that to perpetuate that big lie. And then you want to tap to the economy. The economy is dying because you're telling the big lie, and now the lie is caught up with us, with the Minister of Finance stepping down because the country can prop up the debt that we have, and the frozen GDP, gross domestic product growth, that is now not happening. And he's saying, God, either I go or it goes, and then I go with it. So I'm going to step aside so that I don't go with it, because I got my family to look after, includes my children, and my own reputation to be considered. So we're at a critical point. It's not just Premier Burton making statements and us just into statements. It is a reality that we need to have the conversation, a big conversation about that is affecting all of Bermuda, and we are ducking everything because the first thing we start saying is the man's fault, the foreigner's fault, or as Pogo said, I found the enemy is me. The day we start saying that we're responsible and what happens to Bermuda, we're responsible for it, and stop blaming other people, and get on with this, get away from the idea that we can preserve Bermuda for ourselves. What we got to do is preserve Bermuda for all Bermudians and make sure that they get a piece of the action. But you can't do it unless you get somebody to help you to do the lift.
You know, I want to say this because, you know, most people think I'm a heathen and I don't attend church, but I think I was guilty of everything you just said. I was guilty of believing it. I was guilty of thinking it and feeling it. And it took me to actually start a business, to grow a business, and to start speaking with business people, to start being in international spaces, having conversations about Bermuda, to really understand everything that you just said. And I just want to echo this comment that was said based on what you said, sir. The truth hurts, but lying to ourselves is hurting more. It's definitely time for this level of truth to be told and told some more. And that's from Tamara Richardson. I want to go to something that was said, though, Sir John, and really get your thoughts on this. Let's go to this clip. This was from January.
The story behind how Sir John Swan got us the tax exemption that we enjoy today. I mean, when you read that, it should bring tears to your eyes to know what, I mean, when you meet Sir John after reading that, you want to go down and kiss his feet. What this man did for Bermuda on his own, secretly.
You have Craig Simmons, who has been an outspoken.
It didn't come through.
Oh, you didn't see it. So basically, it was Craig Simmons. Craig Simmons was stating that what you did for Bermuda and Bermuda businesses with the tax breaks, that Bermudians should be bowing and kissing your feet. He spoke very highly of you. And as you know, Mr. Simmons, a lecturer at Bermuda College, has been very vocal about the economic state of Bermuda. But what do you say? Because some young people, they were born in the 90s or some 2000s, and they don't know about the impact that you had as leader of Bermuda. And how can you empower young Bermudians to follow what you did back then?
Well, you know, the question is, we equate these categories of people, you know, international people, white, international people, black, international people who come here and do work from, whether from the Philippines, whether from India or Indonesia. And what you've done is you have compromised Bermuda so much now. And people are struggling because Bermuda is the most integrated country in the world. More people are getting married on a per capita basis than anywhere else in the world. We've got components, a mix. At the same time, in our hearts, we seem to sort of stay in that compartmentalization process. And that's because I came up with the waterfront project as an example. To build that waterfront, and had to drag the corporation just to look at it because they said, no, you're going to disturb our park and our revenue, our parking lots. And the government itself was not au fait. But we set up a whole concept of creating a waterfront that made Front Street a place that everybody from Tuckerstown to Bedtown could come, bring their children, enjoy themselves, have concerts and everything else. We missed an opportunity to bring people together. We are so compartmentalized, and because we did have a level of prosperity, and as you know, I built a lot of homes, 40% for 10 years. When I came in government, I continued that process in government, and so we gave nice homes, and they quite have to go home, turn the television on. In fact, you drive through Bermuda, and I always get fascinated. I do you try the same thing. You can drive almost anywhere in Bermuda on a Saturday or Sunday, which when I grew up, people out cutting the lawns, painting the roofs, fixing up the house. There's nobody around the house. There's nobody outside. They're in the car, driving around, getting back home, getting back in the house, watching TV, air conditioning on. So what we don't have, therefore, is the prosperity created us to a certain extent from isolation. What we have to do now is realize the fact that we as a country have to bring our people back on stream and talking to each other, interacting with each other, and discussing subjects that are relevant to Bermuda. And don't get caught up into American news. American news is propaganda. I stopped watching CNN and Fox News because all I kept hearing was what's wrong with America. And that's affecting, it almost affected my mind to think that there's what's wrong with Bermuda. And American issues are not the same as Bermuda issues. We can solve our problems. We can deal with a lot of our issues. But we've got to take and address them as though they are Bermuda problems and not American problems, or not a British problem, Bermuda problems. And I think that we can get over. It's like education. You know, we've missed the boat so many times because somehow somebody goes overseas, gets an idea that they saw something overseas, and they're going to transport it to Bermuda. They're still having a population growth, having a population shrinkage, and we got to look at. And we have, 50% of our kids in private schools. All the country in the world has 50% of its kids in private schools. So we've got to look at it and say, what do we do, and bring the expertise to get it done. We keep pointing teachers as administrators down the Department of Education, and don't have administrators as such, because what happens is we've decided we're going to Bermudanize Bermuda. We're going to Bermudanize, and since our public schools are predominantly all black students, we have all black and Bermudian administrators and people in the school. Why don't we just look at it and say, we want to get the most competent people to look after our children. I don't care if they're black, white, any nationality, but bring the competence levels up. Our numbers, birth rate has been falling. Our intellectual competence has been falling. Our critical thinking has been falling. And how can you then take these ideas, a new technological revolution world, and bring them to our children so that they then learn in the current contemporary process as opposed to the historical one, but still working backwards and trying to get to where we want to get to? It doesn't work.
Wow. You said a lot, and I like what you said. Go ahead, Sherry. Sorry.
Yeah, and you just saying all of that great knowledge, and I'm glad that you said, that when America has a problem, Bermudians think we have a problem, and we look to America, and it just doesn't work. With your political background and your business background, and being one of the longest serving premiers, what are you most proud of?
Proud to be Bermudian. That I'm very proud of. I'm not very proud of them. I'm hurting because Bermuda's hurting. It's okay for me to sit here in this tall 10-story building and dress up in a suit every day. But if you saw the real thing, and some people that know me very well will tell you, I pine every day because I see what's happening to our young people, and it's our fault. So the word pride would mean the fact that I feel as though that we're all being looked at. And some of our people, I mean, you look at the amount of meals that are being served to people at these churches and other organizations every day, because people can't afford to go to the grocery stores and buy the groceries they need. People can't afford to rent. Yesterday, look at the amount of taxes that was due to government be paid and be paid. There's something systemic in the decline of Bermuda that I can't be proud anymore of what was a country that was so out ahead the game and had so much to offer and was example in other places. What are we example to any place other than the fact that we happen to have the insurance business? And with the stroke of luck, we got that back in the 80s. But we haven't had a stroke of luck since then. We've closed down hotels, and we've chased people out of here. We're still playing games with people who want to come and put money into Bermuda. But because we keep saying the fact that, we're looking for Bermudians, it's a big lie. You're looking out for yourself because there aren't many Bermudians who have the opportunity to do anything. That's the reality of it. So we need to do a remake, a remix If not, what we'll find out by the year 2030 that the island, because of climate change, because of economic conditions in whether it's America or Europe, or what effect that China has on the rest of the world, we become insignificant, irrelevant, and unoperable. And I see it happening. And so there's nothing for me to be. My only problem I have, if we can find a way that we sat down together and found a fix to the problem we have, and stop being in isolation and paranoia about somebody accusing somebody else or listening to somebody else or not doing something, that we all sit down and say, here is a problem. You can't solve a problem unless you define what it is. Look at the possible solutions, and then have a course of action that says we all agree that this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to be adversarial. And that's what parliamentary politics has done to us in a small country. You can go to England or go to America, but this is a small country. We're 50,000 Bermudians, 60,000 overall population. A little drop in the ocean, and we're going to start acting like that's what we are, and realize the fact that we have 500 acres of arable land, so we have nowhere to grow food unless we do hydroponics or whatever the case might be, and we've got to worry about that because hurricane come along and does damage. We're an import country, but you have to earn the dollar. The country itself, overall dollar position in terms of debt, because all these institutions now are owned by foreigners, is about $11 billion. Is what the government owes and the guarantees, and whether it's the airport or whether it's the hospital, and then the private sector, what it owes on mortgages and loans and debt, and all that money is owed, has to be converted from Bermuda dollars to US dollars. So we've got a big mountain to climb, and the only way we can get up that mountain is we climb it by helping each other to get up there, because it's not going to be easy. So by 2030, if things continue the way they're doing, if you think we have a problem now, it will even be worse. That's why that we need a makeover.
Okay. Well, Sir John Swan, was there anything that you regretted most about your time in politics?
I had a wonderful time in politics. If really, when I reflect back on it, I had a wonderful time. We had, first of all, when I entered politics, the Trump business was way on decline then, and I realized there was no way I could recover it, so I went after the international business and was able to get the treaty through. But more importantly is, in the process, was able to bring to Bermuda people of importance, whether it was Maggie Thatcher, the Queen, President of the United States, senators, congressmen, big business people. They all came, they all enjoyed Bermuda. They all felt as though they were part of this little special place. We were linked, we call ourselves a linchpin between the United States and Great Britain. We've lost that link between right now. There was some conflict between government and the government and the British government. We don't have any link between the United States and Bermuda right now. So it's, again, I enjoyed a wonderful period. We used Camden. We had people down, whether it was Jesse Jackson or whether it was people, Prime Minister of Barbados, or it was somebody else somewhere else, and we entertained them at there, and we let the public know that these people were here, and we were entertaining. We had photo ops, and Bermuda was it was singing. I enjoyed that process. I think we can restore that, and I don't think it would be long, but you got to have the will, and don't be so xenophobic, and you got to be able to embrace people. It's all about people relationships. I spent, even today, I was in Florida a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I attended a function. Sure, they were Republicans, but why? I don't know whether they can come back to power. We might need them. I can't wait to say, oh, by the way, I got to put the begging bowl out 2 years from now. My view is you get to know the people before they get the power. So when they get the power, they remember that you were there when they didn't have it. So it's all about doing things adds to the process of Bermuda growing. I do the same thing with the Democrats. So it's not a question of, I don't ever want to see myself looking that somehow I'm better than somebody else. I'm just an average local joker, came from over Marsh Valley, offshore. I was a pawn dog, played in the pawn, understood what it was like to be poor, understood what it was like to need things, but had to find a way to get them. I delivered papers. I lived in North Shore. I delivered papers. I delivered papers in the neighborhood I live in today because they didn't have a paper and they wanted somebody. I got up at 4:30 in the morning and made sure those papers were over there. And that's what happened. When I saw that area, I loved it. And I said, one of these days I'd like to buy a house in it. You plant a seed in people's heads. And guess what happened? I now live in that house over there. Okay. So back to dreaming and hoping. We've taken the hope out of people. And when you take the hope out of a people, what is left? Despair, anger, disgust. And that's exactly what we've done to our people. And then we say we represent them. We're going to look after them. We're going to send them to church on Sunday. They're not going to church on Sunday mornings. They're having problems getting out of bed Sunday mornings. And some of them not going to work. That's not Bermuda that I knew. And I'm not saying we got to make the past the present. I'm saying human beings. And they respond according to the way you treat them. I see people treating the dogs better than they treat their people. That's the dog gets sick, the first thing you do, run to the vet. It's not the vet come to your house. Somebody gets sick out in the community with a human being, he's just making an ass of himself, or he's just, that's typical of him. I haven't seen any sick dogs around Bermuda, and if they do, they get sent to SPCA and they bring the vets in and fix stuff. But I see a lot of sick people around Bermuda, and I don't see any doctors being brought in. It's got so expensive now, people can't go to doctors, people can't go to hospital. When you see that we're looking after our people, no. What we're doing is we're riding on the crest of a wave that could collapse tomorrow, because as we go to 5G and technology, the risk is that the international business, because the pandemic has already started the process, is that it won't need as many people. That's why we get Bermuda moving now, because all these things have cycles. They have a life cycle, they have a beginning, they have a growing period, and they have a period of decline. It's just like we were born, we have a growing period, and then we have a period of decline. All businesses have the same thing. It's a question of how much you do nurture them growing, how much you provide for them when they are in their most productive period, and also what you do when they start to decline. And what we do is, in humans, we just bring on more people in by birth rate and do it. We are not doing the same thing with business. We're not bringing new business in. We're trying to patch up those stuff that we've got. But the end result is the decline is greater than the growth. And the end result is we go backwards. So we need to sort of remake Bermuda. And so it's not just a question of Southampton Princess Hotel, or whether it's one thing or the other. We need to have where the world wants to come back to us. We're not, they say build and they will come, but you also have to say, what is it they want when they do come, and how we can produce it. And I see Hamilton right now. I go down, I ask everybody to take a walk from King Street down to the Bank of Bermuda, a building where Point House is now, and take a look at their Bermuda if you see it. And you tell me, does this represent the storefront of a country that really was the envy of the world?
Well, so John, I want to, and this wasn't part of the questions, but you made me think of something because I was talking to someone yesterday, someone who's been very successful in the international business sector. And this question just popped in my head when you said that. There's this thing where you mentioned Marsh Folly, and that's where I'm from. I don't know, it's people like Sherry are from the suburbs. They probably don't know about Marsh Folly, right? But that's where I'm from. And that's where so many Bermudians who have gone on to do great things have come from the same area. And it's just words, but it seems to mean something to some people. When Black men especially, right, start to make progress and build businesses, and through those businesses provide and create opportunities for other Bermudians, they get called different names and they get treated as if they're sellouts. And I was just talking to someone yesterday in the sector, and he said the reason we have these problems is because the minute we start speaking like this, we're looked at as sellouts. How do we overcome this kind of stuff, Sir John?
Again, it's all about leadership. It's where does a leader lead us? Moses led his people. He never got to the promised land. He promised them they'd get there if they followed the 10 Commandments. We need the 10 Commandments in Bermuda. We needed something that says the fact that, leader provides us with some imperatives, some management imperatives, some principal ethical imperatives, where law and order and ethics and good governance and principles of responsibility are carried out and done by the people at the top. It's like you have the top, and then you have the civil servants, and then you have the public at large. If the top is collapsing because it is not believed in by the people at there, and it's doing things that affect them, the impression comes down and it spreads out, and the mass at the bottom more and more feel the adverse effect of it, while the people in the center get some benefit, but they can still wrong, and the people at the top get the benefits, and they know it's wrong, but they don't have the will to change it. You got to have the will to change and put some energy in the top, so it's growing and it's participating and it's providing. It's a provider of, and government's job is very simple. Government's job is to facilitate. Some of the other government should be the doer. A good government has a very simple job. It is the Parliament is a legislative body. It makes laws. It produces regulations and policies that are presented by the ministry through the civil servants, the things that need to get done to make things work. When government gets into participation by way of shareholding, by way of being diverted away from the norm of those three responsibilities, it gets the country into trouble because it gets distracted from its responsibilities. So we need government focus on those three things and recognize that it's a human resources or resources, whether capital or human, to get the job done. And it has to be competence if we're going to take and get the job done in the way. And if people that don't have the competence, but can have the at least opportunity to participate in the process, will produce children that will, as you said, you came from Marsh Folly, you look at from Government House, going all the way around to Frizzle's Hill, all the way around to Curvin Avenue, coming all the way around to town. What do you see? A lot of people who made major contributions to Bermuda, came to those areas. That the housing there was bad. I know. I lived, played, went to school, Central School, Victor Scott School, smelled that burning and down there. But when you look at the people that came out of that, professional people, dentists and doctors and lawyers and business people, all coming, head of civil service, highest premium. and so many other people. You know, Clarence James of Glebe Hill, who was one of the ministers of finances. You know, many doctors were from that area. So it is not from whence you came. It is what your parents felt as though that they were promised that the children could get something and do something. And we've lost that, quite frankly with you. You know, I mean, we've just lost it. And because we have not made the provision for our future generations, you know, and the foreigner can leave Bermuda, go back home, and establish his credentials elsewhere. He's here, and what we should do, and one of the things I learned a long time ago, when you're using me, and you can use me as long as you don't interfere with my basic principles, I'm going to use you. So it's a trade-off. What we want to be able to do is to think that we can use the foreigner, but he can't use us. And the end result is it's a one-sided deal. And one-sided deals don't work very well. You know, they collapse very fast. So what we would do is, you know, this man's a deal maker. I'm a deal maker, basically. I was a businessman that went into politics. I wasn't a politician that went into business. I
Say it again. Say it again.
And Bermuda stopped making deals. And when you stop making deals, you stop. And I'm not talking about corrupt deals either. I'm talking about finding a way to get something done because you know it should be.
But Sir John, you just said it. You said that you were a businessman who went into politics, not a politician who became a businessman. And I think when you get into private conversations today, a lot of people feel that many in politics today go into politics to become the business person rather than the opposite way around. You were proven when you went into politics.
Yeah, I mean, you got people. I don't even know. I mean, Minister of Finance was in business. Then went into politics. Keynes ran Dickinson, went into politics. I think of who else was really in business. Because they're really in Bermuda right now. They're only basically two big trading businesses owned by the black community. That's Brown & Co. and People Pharmacy. Think of it. Not only about 20 years ago, there were several more. And 40 years ago, there were many of them all over the place. What's happened? But nobody's asked that question. What happened? You know, and I think everybody has just ducked the boat, run for cover. I'm getting mine, and you can get yours. Every man for himself, God for his own. And it just doesn't work in a normality of doing and trade. It has to be a reciprocal process. It's not about just you getting yours, but everybody getting the action. When I built my business up, I had 18 contractors, 18, all black, all knew what principles were, and built 40% of the homes on the island. They all did well. I told my staff, every one of my staff had to have a house. I'm in the real estate business. You can't be working real estate business. And I said, I'll help you do the financing for you, but you got to have your own home. And I can tell you, most of them did. You know, well, whether they left me afterwards, lost it, that was the issue. And some of them did that, you know. But that's beside the point is they got their own, and that's what I didn't build that business by myself. Took a business in 1962. In fact, this is my 60th year that I've been in this. I'm still here in the office. I had a business, but after working 2 years, I had $800 worth of savings. When I started that business, I hardly had money to fix up the office. I started my Swan savings, and before you know it, went from zero, and in 25 years, it went up to 56 million. You know, it was, you had to make business, and you had to make deals. You had to find ways of surviving. I almost bankrupt 4 times. People don't realize the fact that it's not easy, right? But you had to find a way in which you found resources, ways in which you could survive. But because I had started out as a young person, surviving by getting up early in the morning and going out and understanding what darkness really was about and what things that I had to get done. And if I got tired, I still had to get out and walk to what I had to do to get things done. I'm not saying that this generation needs to do what I did, but we have to give them a chance to do something of doing nothing with them.
Mm-hmm. Sir John, we are out of time, and definitely we can go a lot more. There's so many more things to talk about: independence, referendum. We can talk about race and politics. We can speak about fintech and opportunities, but we definitely would love to have you back on. The audience wants us to keep going, but unfortunately it is called the Daily Hour. Before you go, Sir John, I just, and Sherry, I don't know if you want to ask your final question, but I want to wrap it up on that note.
You resigned as premier after the 1995 independence referendum, in which the majority who voted did so in favor of remaining a British dependent territory. Here we are, almost 27 years later, and nothing has changed. Are you still in favor of Bermuda becoming independent? And what must be done to achieve that status?
Well, I've always taken the view that independence should be the choice of the people, not the choice of politicians. And I would do that. And I would dare challenge anybody, as long as I'm around, tries to do the election. And the reason for it is a major step that affects everybody, and it's not election. You could turn around. You win election, 5 days another election. A referendum is a one-shot deal, and I've always taken that position. When I became premier, I recognized that people had desires for independence, and we became out of that colonial, separated, segregated, undesirable position, and we felt as though we needed to have an ethos, an independent ethos in which we would build Bermuda on. I took the position that we should be a country that can make that decision as a collective people, and people came across the line from the PLP and joined me when I was premier, because I said to them, if opportunity comes to support independence by way of a referendum, I would support it. And I stuck with that, and I made that pronouncement over and over in many places. One of my own cabinet colleagues, I had the People's Five in my cabinet, one of them suggested that the subject of independence should be put on the table, at least let's discuss it. I, as the premier who sets the agenda for the cabinet, had choice to do what the will of the cabinet, and I got a vote from the cabinet to support it. So I supported it. They supported. I bought the paper. They supported the paper. To caucus, they supported, and caucus went to Parliament, and Parliament supported a referendum. So it was a serious, because if I didn't do that, I'd be caught in a lie of telling people support me, because I would support a referendum, who had sacrificed themselves, pulled themselves away from the PLP and joined me, and a lot of voters did the same thing. So the date was set, and we proceeded to work on the mandate of Parliament. When I found out that some people, and particularly an individual, in Lewis, and told them that you should take the country to independence and you should boycott the election to prevent John Swan from doing it, that upset me enormously, because I'm here serving and keeping these people in power, and they couldn't keep themselves in power. They had no support. The basic party support had gotten down to about basically one individual most. So I felt as though, as a matter of principle, there's no way I could sit around a cabinet table and continue to support a people that became very rogue. So I announced the fact that if the election was lost because the way in which it was going about, that I was down as a matter of principle. And I took that principle position and stood down. And you know the story thereafter. We didn't get it. PLP always wanted an election, wanted independence. I thought that's what they wanted. At least they would support a referendum. If the referendum didn't succeed, we put the subject on the agenda for the public to decide. But to boycott it meant the fact that they deprived themselves and their people of one of the great dreams they ever had. And here we are today, what, 40 years later, 37 years later, here we are today, talking about Bermuda as still a crown colony, a dependent territory. And maybe in some ways, maybe it's good, because what I'm saying now is it frightens me. The chaos in Britain and the chaos in Bermuda are incompatible. So what do we have? We have a position that says at least there are certain constitutional constraints on the government, which whether the British will intervene and interfere with our affairs or not, I don't know. But I have not seen the British actually involved with Bermuda very much lately. Sure, we have a British governor. She is governed by a constitutional position and by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I'm not sure if the Foreign and Commonwealth Office buys into Bermuda like it used to buy into Bermuda, or trying to make Bermuda a better place, as opposed to just simply saying we're going to just maintain the status quo. We're governed by laws or by the provisions of your Constitution, but we're not going to initiate anything. And what worries me is they made provisions for us, a lot of things for the COVID treatment. And I think what they've decided to do, they're going to, because when we ask to help us financially, they're going to say, look, we gave you all the help you need. We're not obliged to do it. You're not a Cayman, and you're not Turks Caicos. We sit on the legislative council, and we help to govern the country. We don't participate in any of your affairs when it comes to governance of Bermuda, so we don't feel obligated to take in with your financial affairs. You deal with them yourself. That being the case, I think that we sit on the edge of a precipice all by ourselves, and when we fall off, we must to feel the effects of it, because they're not going to come to our rescue. And I've questioned that at very high levels, whether that be true or not. And I can tell you now, without a doubt, that I never got a yes or no answer, but sometimes just pay attention to the smiles.
Indeed.
And I am deeply concerned about Curtis Dickinson leaving. I'm deeply concerned about who might replace him. And even if he's replaced, does he run into the same problem that Curtis Dickinson ran into? But in the meantime, the damage is done. So it's not a simple yes or no answer. I am, I will always, I give politics. I said the one thing I'm going to do is look out for Bermuda and Bermudians and Bermuda, whether they're black, white, rich, or poor, or foreign or not, so that at least we bring some semblance of evaluation and critical thinking to the process. I can tell you, put my hand on my heart and tell you, John Swan is concerned of this country right now because of some of the things I said earlier. And so I want to say to all of Bermuda, you tell me, when you see me, what you want to do to fix this country, and I'm going to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir John. It's a pleasure, and we will be in touch with you. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, sir.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Right. Thank you so much. So much to take in, folks. Sir John Swan. Really appreciate him trusting our platform to have that conversation. We'll definitely be reaching out to him to have him back. I know the audience, we have a lot of comments. We do a man of principles. Cully Smith says, definitely bring him back. We do need another show with Sir John as guest, so much knowledge. We have, I mean, it just goes on. Sir John started an investment company, bring you $100 to start up, and I put my son and I in that company. This man is making me cry. He is passionate about our country, Michelle White says. Renee Simmons says, we need another hour. Appreciate Sir John at this moment. And it goes on and on. But there were so many takeaways. We'll be definitely making a clip. So many key points. And, you know, we know our audience very well.
Yeah.
My hope is that our audience shares with young Bermudians who don't know Sir John Swan and this level of conversation very well, because he didn't speak like and I'm not disrespecting Sir John in saying this, but he didn't speak like an elderly person who knows nothing about how the world works.
Correct.
That's not
Yeah.
what he did. What
Very
he did,
interesting.
spoke like a sane person who understands business and how the world has evolved. And so I believe that young people, believe it or not, one of the challenges we have is listening to elders and experienced people who are still in business because we think that they have no clue. I'm here to tell you there is a man who has made a greater impact than most Bermudians in the business sector that understands what we need. And listen to his plea at the end when he stated, let's have a conversation. What can we do? And he wants to be there to assist. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back to wrap it up. And Sherry is not getting away from the daily plate. Stick with us, folks.
A lot happens around your home. That is why at One Communications, we have introduced affordable security and video monitoring, because everyone should be able to afford to protect their family. Anytime, from anywhere, One Home Security keeps you connected and puts security in your hands with an easy-to-use smartphone app to control everything. Home security is important to keep you and your family safe. Motion-activated cameras around your home and security monitoring within create a complete security system providing protection both inside and outside your home. Professional monitoring means that there's someone on call with 24/7 protection to notify the authorities and help keep you and your loved ones safe. We are dedicated to whole home protection with indoor and outdoor cameras, smart door locks, motion sensors, and more, so you'll always be connected to what matters most. With professional installation, no upfront hardware fees, and low monthly rates, because keeping your family safe should be affordable for everyone. Total home video monitoring and security, there's no better way to protect your home than with One Home Security.
All right. If you appreciated that conversation with Sir John, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share these conversations as well. Thanks again to One Communications, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. It's time for the Daily Play brought to you by Heineken 0.0. Great taste, no alcohol. Sherry, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go. We're running out of time.
Remember when? Very easy. What year did Sir John Swan become Premier of Bermuda?
Oh, I don't know that.
He is.
He resigned after 1995. Would have been the 80s. Am I close? I hope it's logged off. 86. '89. Am I close, Jamal? Give me something like 82.
One day, Sherry, one day. 1982 to 1995, the longest serving Premier Bermuda has had. Any final thoughts on today's show, though, Sherry?
Very simple. Let's find somebody who best suits to be the Minister of Finance. And, Sir John Swan, so many jams. America's problems, not Bermuda problems. A businessman should be in politics. And mindset is everything. He delivered papers in a neighborhood that he eventually lived in. And he cares about Bermuda. I mean, simple to the point.
As far as the finance situation, as I continue to say, is whoever the finance minister is a reflection of us, the electorate, the community. So when we say there's no one to replace someone, that's on us. Keep that in mind. Bermuda, we are in trouble, but we were in trouble long before Curtis Dickinson resigned. But his resignation adds to the concern. As far as Sir John Swan, look, politically, I disagree a lot with most political parties. I just don't agree with systems. But from a business perspective, I understand it. And it took me a long time to understand it. Am I understanding it I'm an expert? No. But I understand it based on trying to learn more. Because at the end of the day, none of us know it all. Not even Sir John. Like he said, he was bankrupt, 4 times? Folks, our problems are fixable. But to fix them, some things that we've been taught and told, we have to let go. And I'll let you think about what those things are. Sherry, I know you've got some daily inspiration for us.
Yes, success is personal. So stop comparing your apples to their oranges. Johan Somalian.
Love that one, folks. I will say this, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the like notification button, and guess what? Go on our website, see how you can be $500 richer after this month. Don't forget to also subscribe to our website so you stay up to date on who's coming on the show, but also how you can be eligible to win some big prizes. Thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. Sherry Vanderpool, I'm Jamal Hartman. My friends, please do make it a safe and great day. Thanks again to Sir John. Peace.